You don't fuck with a god.
What's going on, nomads, party people, and strangers everywhere across the internet? I know you guys probably expected me in a bunch of other videos for the whole entirety of the month, but I've been on sabbatical for a long time, this whole entire span of things, not counting the Merlin weekly thing that's coming back this May, mind you, and maybe some other weekly things to take place, because this is the spring finale of Lion's Rant. The reason I'm doing this because I've already made a original spring finale that I'm not going to show you guys, because after showing two of my siblings of Shweebs and Phoenix and seeing their reaction to me going a little bit too over the top with my rage over something that has really gotten on my nerves, I'm going to pull back that video and just pocket that for another day. In the meantime, though, the one I wanted to do a rant about for you guys was obviously why the sabbatical in the first place. Why was I gone for so long? Throughout this whole entire month of April, since all you guys got from me was one video that I made for you guys on time for you, and then just non-stop uploads of the podcast with me and my siblings that have been long since filmed and edited. Where have I been in the long span of things? The answer is, quite frankly, very simple. A lot of things went down that, even though I want to talk to you guys about it, I don't feel like it's my place to tell you all the full details, because it's still private matters, even if the people involved did some shady stuff that I want to make public. Now, I've already told people on Twitch one of the stories that can kind of be related to it, which was what my cousin told me as a feel-good story from the whole scenario in general. However, for you guys, I was told another story from my good friend of Magnus, of all people. If you guys don't know who Magnus is, go to my vlog channel of Nomadic V. I'll tell you guys all the story about some of my closest friends, minus, I think, Edward, because we lost the video footage for that. But that's another story for another time. In the meanwhile, after telling a bunch of my friends, at first they didn't want to tell me a lot of stuff. They were just super mad about the whole ordeal. But with Magnus, he actually surprised me by trying to at least sit me down saying, pop open whatever thing that you have, whether it's tea, whether it's alcohol, whether it's something that you got from your 7-Eleven, because I have a story for you rather than just trying to jump to your defense outright. The reason that he didn't want to say anything of that regard is because it was over his older brother of Damien, who had a similar situation. Which is shocking for Magnus, because he doesn't like talking about his family in general, even less than I do about some of my other family that I have. And some of the reasons for it is kind of justified, since his older brother Damien had one time paid off 7 school bullies to beat him up regularly for 3 months straight just because he wouldn't allow him to borrow something. It varies from story to story what it was that he was trying to borrow, whether it was shoes, a video game, a book, or just time on their computer or whatever. And his younger brother is the spoiled one that always felt self-entitled and tried to just get Magnus in trouble all the fucking time. And then his parents, whoa, that's a whole can of worms I am not going into. But this one story was over the years that they finally got close, where they don't have to be assholes toward one another, where Damien was actually doing well for himself in life. If Magnus is kind of the guy that does shady shit because life dealt him a bad hand, Damien is the one that had to go forth and make something new of himself because he was an awful person that was given so much attention and love. That regards, he joined the military. What military branch of what country? I'm not telling you guys because I know a bunch of you guys want to just do fact checks on people's lives after they get famous or they get more notoriety or something like that. So I'm not telling y'all shit. I will say this though. At the time of this recording, he has been dishonorably discharged for actions that are not important to the story. At least not outright. There are many factors about the story that I don't feel comfortable talking about, but you'll see why. What is important is what he was doing while in the service. Now, in his troop, along with some other stuff, he was trying to get some stuff together for off-duty things with a band. I don't know what Damien does musically, I don't care what, because I wasn't really in the mood to hear any sort of story from Magnus. I just wanted to tell him why I was so far in the dumps. But he wanted to tell me anyway about his older brother having a band, but all of a sudden, they start having these other people from a different part of the city that they were stationed in try to help out with some mixing things. In this illustrious studio in a country I won't disclose because, once again, from the reasons before about why I don't say what country or what branch of military or what form of military he was in. One of the people in said studios was part of this big conglomerate that tries to help aspiring people on how to get their sound together, whether it's for fun, whether it's for big production stuff, whatever have you. But one of the people in it, obviously, Damien had a thing for. During said time, trying to just get everything underway, get closer to her, get all this sort of stuff, Damien was very earnest in his approach towards this girl. The girl, on the other hand, at first shy and reserved because of whatever reasons have you about why people don't feel comfortable about people admiring them, complimenting them, or feeling that they're the most attractive person in the world for whatever reason that you want to insert here, was a complete manipulative bitch. Trying to use every venue of the trade to just try to give so much sympathy off to the team that she was working for to just make Damien seem much more of an awful person than what he led on to. Keep in mind, though, I don't care that much about Damien to begin with because I've heard all the stories about him and how much of a terrible human being that he was to Magnus in general. But to hear that, though, is kind of disconcerting as well as villainous and vile, but very hitting close to home at my own problem. From this, Damien kind of began drinking heavily a lot, even when he was on duty. And one time he didn't show up in time for roll call. Surprise, surprise, he's passed out from alcohol poisoning, and people feel like, oh shit, he just probably killed himself from too much alcohol in his system. Let's rush him to the hospital. The people that are on station with him hear about this while they're at the studio and whatnot. Thankfully, Damien comes back a couple of days later, he's fine. But Station Girl tries to sing a different tune to Damien. Tries to make it seem like she was super into him and super invested because I don't know what was going on in her mind. Whether it was trying to keep the person involved, mess with them, make sure that they play this game of how much hope they can destroy from him. I don't care which, because again, I don't care about Damien that well. But she didn't. She then just tried to ooze so much of her essence and allure into Damien, just being like, we could start a relationship, but just don't tell my bosses or any of your friends so that they don't know, to keep this whole thing a little bit more interesting, because I'm starting to get into you. Damien agrees to this, even though he's supposed to be a super smart guy, as well as well-rounded to do a lot of terrible things to people. Man, this is very, very sad of a story so far. So let's continue. So it kind of goes on for about 2 weeks, and all of a sudden Damien is then just trying to swing by the studio when they're alone, trying to do some couple things. Damien didn't tell the whole story to Magnus about this, so we're left to just speculate what happened in secrecy. But we do know that by the end of the speculation, to catch up to the story, Studio girl wants to just be like, let's pump the brakes here, okay? I may like you, but this is going way too far. I really don't know how to feel about this, so let's just dial it back to where we were from the beginning. After just 2 weeks, and insert whatever speculation that you want at that event, all of a sudden trying to dial back out of nowhere because, firstly, not realizing that you fucked up, then secondly, then go into the fact that you fucked up to fix the fuck up after already opening up the doors and opening up Pandora's box. That's short-sighted thinking from an adult, if I might say so myself. If you're like a teenager trying to do it out of hormones, yeah, people will understand that. And yeah, there is a thing called reckless attachment and affection. We all have been there. But if you're just rushing into that knowing someone's whole feelings about that, that is not forgivable, nor is that something that's comforting or anything that is, quite frankly, that bright or smart. That is very detestable, and that is a heinous thing that I hate personally. However, Damien wanted to comply because they were leaving the site anyway to then just go back home. So what was happening in like the background for this whole studio thing if that was the whole case? See, one of the people in Damien's group is a drummer by trade before he joined the service, and he wanted to be taken seriously, right? However, they didn't have a lot of time in the country, like I said prior. So Damien wanted to do some back and forth with the studio people to be like, since Damien's friend is from America and wants to travel back there, to just get some studio time for them, just see what's going on, this, that, and the third thing, and try to financialize something from there since they get a good stipend pay and whatnot. However, by the time the whole secret relationship is still going on, it kind of seems like they're noticing some cut corners while doing some online research and whatnot by finding better studios that haven't really taken this other studio that seriously to record in. So Damien tries to just edge out the whole thing by taking his money back slowly. But then the studio head that's running the whole business is like, no, you don't want to do this. If you do this, you might get blacklisted from the whole thing entirely. You don't want to do that now, do you? Damien, not knowing how the music industry works, is just like, no. Okay, then we're just gonna take this back. Think this over a little bit more. We got you. We're all here for you. We're right here. So they stay on with the whole payment thing, not knowing when they're ever going to come back, which, from the story leading back to the same point, they actually have some leave time to fly out there, I would say 7 months after going there the first time, to just get some recording done, to get some samples together, since after coming back from his home, Damien's friend is now really into joining up with this band that he wanted to form back in his hometown. And during that time, Studio Girl comes back. Now, with Studio Girl coming back in, Damien is not really that interested because last time they tangled with this, it was a muddled mess of just manipulation, a lot of stuff of half-truths, lies, and trying to set him up as the victim. He didn't want to fall prey to this, so he tried everything to avoid her during the whole on-leave vacation. Until she then tries to pull the victim card of just like, I don't know if you're gonna believe me, but I am so sorry, okay? I had no idea what I was doing. I feel really bad about how I acted, and I just really hope you can forgive me. Damien, from this point of the story, is not like me. Like me, I try to forgive people to an extent. I don't forget, nor do I forgive easily, but I try to at least offer an I forgive you as like a small little thing of, you can believe I forgive you, but I really don't. Nor will I forget this because you crossed me, and I hold grudges very, very strongly. It's one of the reasons why I don't like when people fuck with me, because then it starts becoming like this long gambit of, how can I get back at that person for fucking me over? Damien is not really that much of a grudge holder, because he wants to be like, fuck it and fuck you, I don't really forgive you. Just outright up front, I don't fucking forgive you. Very blunt. Something I wish I could be with grudges, but no, not yet. Maybe in a couple years I'll be like that, but not yet. So after all this, Studio Girl still tries to do some stuff like when they're alone, tries to turn up the charm or whatever. When he's just sitting in the studio hearing playbacks, she'll just be there trying to offer some assistance. And for the time being, while they're still there, he tries to at least talk to her for the remaining days that they're there. Until the second to last day when he's just finally trying to confront her about just chatting up. She then decides to pull a 180 back to her original self, then play the victim card and then make him the villain. And unlike me in a situation of trying to just diffuse this as an adult, because popping off automatically makes me seem unhinged, Damien does the opposite of me, goes full-blown rage factor, and makes her cry even more, making him seem more like the villain. This part of the story is kind of unlike my situation because I didn't pop off on the mouth on insert whatever person that is part of the story. I popped off on a different person that we're going to get into in a couple minutes. So, moving on from that, leaving Studio Girl behind, what was going on in the background for the studio thing? Well, like I said prior, the friend of Damien's that wanted to start a band in his hometown actually found some studio and even a manager to try and get some stuff off the ground. Maybe it's like a small little underground band that you guys probably heard of, probably didn't hear of. I don't care because I didn't want to know the guy's name. However, Damien, trying to at least be a good friend, wanted to finally put the nail in the coffin and get the money back that they've put in for so long for the studio that they've barely been to in the couple months that have happened since military duties, their own lives, and the fact that Damien isn't really a band person. He only did it out of boredom, as clarified by Magnus by this point of the story, which is why he didn't go into what he did with the band. As such, Damien tries to negotiate everything on an adult level. They haven't been there in a while, they feel like they're wasting their time, and they just want to get a full refund. That way they don't feel like they have to be a responsibility of the studio. Fun fact at that point of the thing, Studio Girl was super close to the head of the building as well as all the equipment in said studio. So guess what kind of can of worms went into the head person of the studio building? Every single lie and half-truth that has been spread about Damien. Needless to say though, there were a bunch of colorful things being tossed around every person's way, all the way until finally money is tossed back at Damien's face, trying to make him seem as if he'll never work with the music industry again, he'll be blacklisted, this, that, and the third thing, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And wouldn't you know it, the story then comes back to being exactly how I did things, where first there was a thing talking about them that was very public, but no one said anything because they didn't catch on. I publicly made something that was exactly about them before the full-blown fallout actually happened. However, when I made something, just like Damien did in the story, that was completely opposite of them, and just about other people in general that have been clogging up the airwaves, just like how Damien was the studio, both parties from both of our stories wanted to act like they were the ones being accused and made the victims of, trying to make it seem as if he was the person that wanted to start something. He was the one trying to burn bridges. He was the one trying to do some unforgivable actions without thinking, why don't we ask for clarification? Why don't we ask to see who the subject is in this material? Because in all of Damien's Yelp reviews that he tried to do, he did not say a single thing about the studio. It was over him getting a late delivery from takeout food that just happened to be on his Gmail account. Late shit from a delivery company that didn't bother to put the delivery company on the name for some fucking reason in the story. I don't know how that happens. I don't even like Damien enough to ask. But apparently the studio saw the review, because it was linked into their whole mailing list about Yelp reviews that may or may not be related to them due to former clients, and then just boop, tries to then incinerate a bridge that had not been fully burned but simply had been ricketied and possibly could have been repaired over time. Smart idea. Very fucking smart. I can see why that studio is not that well known. It's because of such glowing things like that make them seem very anonymous. So, where does this whole story lead if it's just kind of like the story behind why I've been on sabbatical to where I am now? Well, in the essence of differentiating stuff, like with the story I said on Twitch about my cousin's friend Larry, Damien actually did not really get much of an after effect in his story in comparison to both myself and Larry. Seeing as how he did not care that much about the studio thing, he paid his own wave of trying to make his own revenge happen towards them that I'm quite frankly shocked and appalled at for reasons I'll get into in another story. And for all intents and purposes, I'm quite frankly not comfortable to say what happens next because it says a lot of different dark volumes for how far Damien went that led to him being dishonorably discharged by the time that I'm telling the story. Seeing as how evidence resurfaced that has made him a big pariah, even though they're trying to keep it hush-hush as a military secret. Very lovely. But by the end of it, though, when I'm just looking at Magnus like, why the fuck did you tell me this story? Magnus decides to just tell me, in his own words, word for word in this giant paragraph, that I'm gonna just shrink and minimize into just a few short sentences. It was basically, I know that you're very pissed off and hurt, and that's fine. But unlike my shitty older brother, I've known you long enough to know that you'll do something smarter, something better, and something a lot more healthy for your future. I believe in you to do the better choices than what Damien has done. Now, if you excuse me, I have to go visit him in jail. That is, in essence, what kind of, but not entirely happened in my situation. There were certain things that happened where I was with a group, then stuff happened because of lies, misinformation, half-truths, meddling of a story, and then people trying to tear it apart to make it whatever they want to believe happened. As such, I've been taking this entire month to just get my head back in order because I've not been in a very happy place, and it really has fucked up my psyche since it has been a lot of stuff piling up over the last 3 years that I really wanted to get fixed. From the stuff of living with the DMW organization that we finally repaired things with, the stuff with a former group I was a part of that crumbled apart because someone tried to call me Hitler, the stuff involving the unfortunate fallout between me and Serendipity that I hope are back on good talking terms, the stuff with Emily Pruna that are not being repaired at this point in time, and now this, along with another group that I do not care to talk about because it was something that was brought about because they talked so much shit about my older sister and tried to make it seem like they were the victims in a whole big scenario that I won't really go into further than that. It's in all honesty something that has been culminating to where I needed this time to just get my head back in order, but I haven't really been doing stuff that has been very bad for me. New things have come into my life, a better person has come into my life to make me see that there are things worth living for, a lot of bigger projects have been brewing up, and a whole new side of life is just opening up to where by the time that we get back to work fully by late May at the earliest, this whole thing will get its full makeover that I've been working towards for so long on such a big budget crisis that I'm almost in tears about how wonderful it'll feel to finally have everything that I need to just have a starting platform for everything that I need to get done. And that is basically in essence the spring finale of Lion's Rant. If you guys want to see the original one, tell me in different social media sites like on Twitter, or tell me on Instagram, because over on this video that you're probably watching right now, I'm disabling comments because this is the one video I don't want to hear a single opinion about, because it's a very heavy personal topic that, although certain people will tell me that they feel bad for my situation, or they'll let me know that they want to help, there are also people that can hear the story and want to just share their own views about how I was in the wrong, how I did them wrong, when they don't know the full story, since it was between me and another person that had nothing to do with the overall group, and only got meddled because they didn't want to hear the full story, only one side. So, here we go. If you guys want to talk to me about all this when we come back in the fall for more Alliance Rant things, we can. I just won't tell you guys a lot of stuff about what happened because it's a long, full story. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine, because we'll have a lot more stuff to rant about, because I might bring in my daughters at some point. I might bring in the special someone that's been helping me on my journey in ways that she had never expected to help me. And I might even bring my family members in and just do Alliance Rant here and there. Who knows? But we still have to close things out on the new outro that I've been doing this entire second season for, before we replace this with an even better outro. I'll see you guys then.
I don't got a lot of patience. Funny, cause I got the remedy. All of my enemies showing their faces. They trying to get rid of me. They want the end of me. Woo! Goodness gracious, but they gon' pick up a blade. I'm feeling like Jason.